welcome to part 4.1 of Age of Gods, the reincarnation space. If you encounter any issues or have feedback, please let me know in the comments. Your input helps me improve, and I'm here to make sure you have the best experience possible. Enjoy the content.
Chapter 76, Part 1. Who is your enemy? Tian said directly, which was considered an agreement. None of the supreme beings in the Tian universe are good people. At most, they will not help each other during the dark turmoil. It doesn't matter who they kill, and it's impossible not to kill them. If Tian wants to prove the Tao Emperor, he will inevitably be targeted. Tian made a profit from this deal, but Qin Yin definitely didn't think so. Okay, just agree. The specific supreme being of the enemy is in my scroll. I don't ask you to kill them all. First, you have to protect yourself, and then slowly settle the accounts. One Qin Yin said, and began to introduce the treasures he took out. This scroll is a simplified version of my cultivation method. The original version is too dangerous and not suitable for you. The cultivation method I cultivate is very special. Even if you obtain the royal family's divine emperor cultivation method after this selection, it can still give you some help. These 5 rings contain all my unique skills and divine domain development experience. You can learn and pass them on to the geniuses of your divine domain race. 12. The most important thing is these 5 rings. Each of them seals a kind of law power of mine. How to combine them can match my personal combat power, but it requires a large number of divine crystals to maintain. The divine crystals inside are enough to be used 5 times. You will have to replenish the divine crystals later. Qin Yan's sincerity is very great. After all, he asked Tian to kill the supreme of the same level as him, but the value is still beyond Tian's imagination. Because the cultivation method Qin Yin cultivates can be cultivated to the realm before the divine emperor. It is the highest level cultivation method Tian has obtained so far. Tian didn't care about the cultivation method before, because the royal family would give him the first half of the scroll, but the subsequent cultivation method would have to come back. But with Qin Yan's simplified skills, Tian will not be limited by the royal family. Of course, the royal family can't limit him. Okay, I'll do this for you, and I'll try to catch him alive when the time comes. Tian took the gift from Qin Yin without hesitation and said lightly, "You kid, you are so arrogant. That's a strong man as strong as me." Qin Yin said with some relief and some laughter. Within a year, there will be results. Tian is still so confident, invincible by Xian. The most important thing is that he has enough trump cards in his hand, the godhood of the God King and God Emperor, as well as various God King and God Emperor's divine weapons, temples, props, and the desperate self-destructing godhood, which can even take away the God King in one wave. He also has the mysterious command spell given by the eldest princess. There is the second divine domain of the reincarnation space, and unlimited resurrection points. There are also time gems, cosmic magic cubes, mind gems, and the Titan giant god card of the heavenly chain and the Titan Legion. Even if he were to meet the Supreme Emperor now, he would have many ways to escape. Now with Qin Yan's ring, Tian felt that if it was a one-on-one fight, with all his trump cards revealed, even if he didn't self-destruct his godhood, he could fight off a Supreme. After all, the Supremes in Tian were not strong enough and had limited lifespans, so they couldn't afford a war of attrition. In a normal one-on-one fight, Qin Yin could definitely win those Supremes, but there was really no way he could be beaten by dozens of Supremes. Then wait for your good news. Qin Yin smiled. He had a feeling that when Tian came back, he would probably be even stronger than him who had received the royal award. He suddenly felt like the waves behind him were pushing the waves ahead. This time the harvest is too great. After digesting this harvest, my strength will probably be greatly improved. After Tian returned home, he found that the resources in his hands were enough to tempt a God King. Because of the seal of the gods, plus the royal family and Qin Yin, no one dared to attack him here. But money can make people's hearts move. In the Tianjiao selection competition 3 days later, I'm afraid he will be beaten up in the true sense. And he will be the kind of person who will be attacked by all the geniuses. The selection competition will definitely test the battle of the God realm. I can't directly fuse the Godhead now. The 2 Godheads in my body are too advanced. Once they are fused, they will not be able to suppress my realm and surpass the 1-star gods. Tian himself can't fuse the Godhead now, so there is only one way. Let his subordinate gods fuse the Godhead, and the subordinate gods gain the power of the Godhead, which means that he also controls that power. But after giving it to the subordinate gods, it will take a long time for Tian to condense the Godhead again. Because after having the Godhead, the subordinate gods can even set up their own business and become an independent individual. It is extremely rare that no god is willing to give the subordinate gods the Godhead, even if it is a partner. This requires absolute loyalty, otherwise it is possible to turn the tables. I'm not worried, because there is still a contract in the reincarnation space, and I can't rebel. But who should I choose? Tsunade is not here. Natasha? No, maybe there are better choices, and even the Godhead doesn't need to be separated from my body. Tian smiled slightly and thought of a better way to use the power of the Godhead. Therefore, Tian temporarily returned to the reincarnation space that night, and then signed a contract with a pet in the underworld of the God realm in the reincarnation space. 240 in the next 3 days, Tian has been expanding the reincarnation space, increasing the power of Konoha ninjas such as Slime and Namikaze Minato, and under the control of coercion, inducement, and the Mind Gem, Tian signed a contract with the reincarnation captives of the Justice Legion. Those reincarnations also have a contract with the Justice Legion. They cannot sell the intelligence of the Justice Legion. If they want to leave the Legion, they need to apply and be reviewed, but the content of this contract has nothing to do with the content of Tian's contract. Because Tian's contract does not require them to betray the Justice Legion, nor does it require them to reveal any information about the Justice Legion. It is a contract that completely bypasses the Justice Legion. It is just that this contract cannot be said in front of the Justice Legion, and Tian's information cannot be revealed in any form. With the addition of this group of reincarnations, plus the improvement of the original God Realm race, Tian is confident that he can beat all opponents in this Tianjiao selection. But, on the day of the selection, the fact was a little unexpected to Tian. That is, the location of the selection was actually in the Void battlefield. It seems that the selection mode is not a battle between geniuses. Tian thought silently after boarding the battleship heading to the Void battlefield. Chapter 77, Part 1. Tian, right? I'm Zhang Yida. On the warship, a one-star college student walked towards Tian with a kind and sunny smile. Do you know me? Tian said lightly. The implication was, are we familiar with each other? Hee. Now in Shinjo. No, it's the Earth, and even the Star Realm. Who doesn't know you? Zhang Yida did not hide his envy and exclaimed. Tian was slightly speechless. This guy is not smart. He dared to talk to him when he was not familiar with him. It's okay. I'll leave first. Wait, I'm Zhang Wei's nephew. Zhang Yida saw Tian was leaving and couldn't help shouting. Zhang Wei, class teacher? Tian raised his eyebrows. Although Zhang Wei did not help him when he was cheated, he applied for a scholarship for him and was even willing to lend him money to buy a new initial race card, but was warned by some wealthy families in Yangcheng. Those families just want geniuses like Tian to become their slaves and don't want anyone to help Tian. But with Tian's strong rise, those families dared not say a word, and they all kept a low profile and pretended to be dead. Tian has no time to argue with them now. Not that he has forgotten this hatred. When he returns from the Zhitian universe, it will be the day of the destruction of those families. Hee. I came to you for nothing, just 3 things. Zhang Yida laughed. 3 things are nothing? Tian complained in his heart. This guy is unreliable. Is he really the nephew of teacher Zhang Wei? Although Zhang Wei is a bit old-fashioned, he still has some talent. He retired to become a teacher after being injured in the Void battlefield. It is said that he was backstabbed by his teammates because of jealousy, but unfortunately there is no evidence, and the other party has a background, and Zhang Wei is not a genius, so the matter is left unresolved. First, I want to see you. A great genius. You are my idol now, Junior. Hee. Second, Your Highness Yifei asked me to apologize to you. Third, I want to remind you that Lin Li's gang will ambush you after you enter the assessment site of the Void battlefield. Zhang Yida said, handing Tian a classical and elegant dark magic book. Tian took the black magic book, and the magic book immediately dissipated into nothingness, turning into a spiritual mark and escaping into his sea of consciousness. Underworld Magic Library. It records countless kinds of underworld magic. Not all dark magic books. Also includes the memories of magicians and fallen gods of magic who died in a certain world from ancient times to the present. And it is also a soul weapon that can protect Tian's soul. With the Mind Scepter, no one can control Tian's mind. Of course, there is system protection. Tian is actually not worried about being controlled by the mind. The system didn't tell him at the beginning, and only told him after getting the Mind Scepter. He gave the Iron Man nanosuit he made before entering the Marvel dungeon to Natasha before the opening. Now there is an extra library. But it is not bad. Horcruxes can at least nourish the soul and boost the spirit of the people. Very precious. I received her sincerity. Tian nodded. In terms of value, this underworld magic library is much better than the underworld altar. That's good. If I mess up this, I will definitely be fired by her. I finally saved my salary this month. Zhang Yida patted his chest and smiled like a fool. Tian frowned slightly. Why did Yifeiji let such an employee deliver things for him? No. Does Baibao Chamber of Commerce recruit only weird people? Forget it. What happens to Baibao Chamber of Commerce has nothing to do with him. Shaking his head, Tian asked, where are Lin Lu and the others planning to ambush me? Do you know where the test location is? It's at the entrance of the Void battlefield. The Void battlefield is so vast that even the God Emperor doesn't know the end, but there are only 5 entrances discovered so far. The test location is at the edge of the battlefield entrance, which belongs to the sphere of influence of our universe. It can be said to be our test field. After a pause, Zhang Yida continued to explain. The test field is called a test field, but it is actually a plane C. I don't know how big it is or how many planes it has. However, the time and space nodes currently established are connected to relatively weak planes or small worlds. Of course, don't underestimate the small world. There was once a god who was killed by a mediocre bald man in a weak world with one punch, and even the god's domain was shattered. The bald man who blasted the star with one punch had at least medium divine power. What happened afterwards? Tian raised his eyebrows and asked. That bald guy should be Saitama, the one in One Punch Man. I remember there is this copy in the reincarnation space. Afterwards? What afterward? Do you mean the small world or the bald guy? But it's the same. There are so many powerful people in that small world, and there must be many gods interested in it. Even the true gods have been dispatched, but the small world suddenly disappeared, as if the space-time coordinates were blocked, and it has not been found yet. Zhang Yida said. Suddenly disappeared? Tian was stunned. Could it be related to the reincarnation space? Oh, by the way, when I was a freshman, I read a history book in the school library. A giant in the Godlord realm speculated that the plane C in the void battlefield was not stable. From time to time, a group of planes in it would disappear, perish, and then another group would be born, as if it was a reincarnation. Seeing that, Haonua Zhao, Tian was so curious about the disappeared small world. Zhang Yida immediately showed off his knowledge. I understand, thank you. Tian nodded lightly, and his heart was slightly shocked. It was really the reincarnation space. The copy of the reincarnation space may come from the plane C of the void battlefield. Then, the reincarnation of all people versus the era of gods is really possible. It's just that the reincarnators have never encountered gods in the past. No, maybe they have met, but it is not certain that they don't know each other's identity. This situation is really possible, and the probability is not small. Thinking of this, Tian suddenly had an idea in his mind. Sometimes he can use the information gap between the two sides to achieve his goal. P.S. I will stop here for tonight. Good night, dear readers. Chapter 78, Part 1. The reincarnation copies are protected by the reincarnation space, which shields the spatial coordinates. However, as a reincarnator, Tian is also a person from the God universe, so he can completely locate the copy coordinates from the God universe. You can use the gods of the God universe to attack some extremely difficult copies. You can also use the reincarnations in the copy to annihilate the hostile gods who enter the copy. Tian can even use the SS World Legion card to attack a copy world first, and when the gods come to attack, he can kill them with the home advantage. How does the plane war in the void battlefield proceed? Tian looked at Zhang Yida and asked, Hey, you are a genius. You grasped the key points of the test so quickly. The examiner will explain it to you later, but it doesn't hurt to tell you now. Zhang Yida smiled and said, The plane war is carried out in different modes according to the plane level and the world level. Basically, it depends on the race of the god realm, because the gods will be excluded by the will of the plane and the laws of the world. The gods need to fight against the potential will or laws of the plane. It is difficult for the gods to intervene in the plane war. They can only add buffs like the god realm war. This is not the biggest limitation. The real problem is that some planes are very weak, but there are very strong monsters in them. When the god's domain is launched to attack the plane, the opponent will take the initiative and even shatter the god's domain and die directly. At the same time, there are 5 major camps in the void battlefield: gods, evil demons, foreign gods, old gods, and void. We are the gods. The evil demons from outside the domain that are hostile to us are the evil demons. The arbitrary foreign gods and old gods compete with us the most, and there are void beasts covering the entire void battlefield. There are actually 5 camps: gods, evil demons, foreign gods, old gods, and void. Tian did not expect the situation in the void battlefield to be so complicated and severe. Except for himself, there are enemies everywhere. But fortunately, the enemies are also fighting on their own, and it is impossible to unite and achieve a balance. And in the void battlefield, if you don't have the characteristics of immortality, you can't withstand the wear and tear of the void law of the void battlefield. So the strength of the divine domain is crucial to the void war. You have to be careful. You are not even a god now. After selecting the plane to attack in the void battlefield, if you can't solve it in a short time, then you are likely to be worn out by the void law and fall. Even the realm of the gods will fall because of the attack timeout. Zhang Yida warned. Can true gods fall? Isn't the void battlefield a race of life and death? Tian didn't expect the void battlefield to be so weird. After becoming a primary god, the fire of faith in the kingdom of God will not be extinguished, and the god will not die. Medium divine power, even without the power of faith, can also live forever. True gods are as long-lived as the sky. Even in the last days, they can live forever until the end of time. Even true gods can't attack for too long. The void battlefield is too weird. A race of life and death? Junior's summary is quite appropriate, haha. However, True gods generally will not fall because of the timeout of the attack, unless the attack has not taken the plane for hundreds of years, so you must be very careful when choosing a plane. If it exceeds the scope of your ability or is in a stalemate, you will be in a dilemma. Zhang Yida reminded. Can't you withdraw directly? Yi Tian said. The effect of power is mutual. When you encounter a plane will of equal strength, when you want to erode it, it will want to devour you to strengthen itself. What's more, if you let the gods escape, only death will be waiting for it. It will definitely fight harder than the gods. Not all planes will suddenly lose their coordinates. You can't be too greedy as a human or a god. It is best to choose a target smaller than your own divine race. Zhang Yida sighed with some vicissitudes. His expression obviously saw many seniors, juniors, and classmates fall in the void battlefield because of greed. Thank you, senior. Yi Tian nodded. He was being polite before, but now he really thanked Zhang Yida for solving many puzzles in the void battlefield for him. You're welcome. Hee, the examiner will tell you later. This is information that all college students at the University of Gods know. Zhang Yida smiled, and then said with a mean smile, well, Junior, can I get an autograph? If I have your autograph, maybe I can get a date with the goddess senior sister I dream of. Get lost, Yi Tian said, and distanced himself from this funny guy without looking back. Why did you refuse? Where's the thank you? Zhang Yida was a little puzzled. He thought Yi Tian would give him an autograph. His brain circuit was indeed a little abnormal. The gods and geniuses around him distanced themselves from Zhang Yida and even secretly complained. He is already a senior and only a one-star god. How did he get to that level? This kind of idiot can also participate in the Tianjiao selection? I'm kidding. Zhang Yida didn't care about the eyes around him and curled his lips in his heart. They are jealous of me, yeah, that must be the case. That senior has a problem with his brain. After Yi Tian walked to the corner of the battleship, he thought secretly. He could see that Zhang Yida was not pretending to be stupid, but was really a little stupid from time to time, which could also be called honest. Zhang Yida, he once merged the will of a plane when he was conquering a certain plane. A young man in a green robe with a rather elegant demeanor came over and said, Yi Tian was startled and found that the visitor was an acquaintance. Lin Tianyi, his defeated opponent. Chapter 79, Part 1. Oh, you said that Zhang Yida's brain problem was due to a certain plane will. It was the first time that Yi Tian heard that the plane will could affect the consciousness of gods, but he remembered the will of Hades in his underworld altar. If Hades will could do it, why couldn't the plane will do it? Yes and no. Zhang Yida's personality was carefree, and the plane will was almost perfectly matched with his nature. After the fusion, it just magnified this attribute, which would become like this. Lin Tianyi's face was a little strange when he said this, because it was the same whether he said it or not. In the final analysis, he was just a funny guy. Yi Tian's face was slightly pulled, and he didn't know how to evaluate that funny guy senior. What about you? What do you want to see me for? Yi Tian asked instead. I want to redeem the Sword Emperor tomb left by our ancestors. It is very important to our Lin family, and we will not let you suffer any loss. 100 billion god crystals, plus 100,000 abyss stones, plus a god emperor inheritance. You can mention the specific details, and we can discuss. The Lin family will never be your enemy in the future. After the selection competition is over, you can consider it. Lin Tianyi finished his conditions, bowed, and left. Yi Tian was slightly stunned. This man did things decisively, and did not say anything threatening. He was not a playboy like Zhao Xiaorui. This made him unable to even say no. Although he was defeated, his quality is quite high. Yi Tian commented lightly. The value of a complete Sword Emperor tomb is not comparable to 100,000 abyss stones and 100 billion god crystals, but the incomplete Sword Emperor tomb is not necessarily much more valuable than 100,000 abyss stones, let alone a god emperor inheritance. There are Lin family inheritance and secrets in it. Yi Tian smiled and said that he would trade with him after he cracked the secret. The initiative was in his hands. Soon, the Shenzhou warship arrived at the void battlefield and docked at the periphery of the void battlefield. After that, the vague fairy shadow of the eldest princess appeared on the big screen, and the selection competition officially opened. The selection competition was divided into 3 rounds. The first round was a personal battle. Yes, it was not a battle in the god's domain, nor was it the hunting plane mentioned by Zhang Yida, but a personal battle. It was just that it was fought in the universe void of the void battlefield, with a time limit. Even if the strength was equal, whoever couldn't hold on first would lose. However, Yi Tian didn't have to participate in the competition and directly locked the first place. Some people had opinions, such as the geniuses from the other 4 empires. They had never lost to Yi Tian, so they were naturally dissatisfied. But on the Phantom, Princess Yin said something with murderous intent. This palace said that he is the strongest, whoever agrees and whoever disagrees. The whole audience was silent in an instant. The geniuses of the 4 empires didn't dare to say a word, not even what was in their hearts. Just like that, Yi Tian quietly skipped the first round of the competition. The purpose of the first round of the competition is to eliminate those gods whose personal strength is too weak. The god universe does not value personal strength, as long as they will not be killed by the opponent in seconds. But the Zhetian universe is different. The Zhetian universe mainly relies on personal strength, and because the living matter on the body is too thick, the gods dare not open the divine domain unless it is absolutely necessary. Even the vitality of the one-star gods is a great tonic for those supreme beings. So, the first round of the competition ended like this. There are 10 million geniuses participating in the selection of the 5 major empires, hundreds of kingdoms, and the star realm. It is really a lot. Of course, many of them are just runners-up and try their luck. In the end, only 100,000 people survive the first round. Too weak. Yi Tian looked a bit bored. None of the 9 people in the top 10, except him, could defeat him in a single blow. The geniuses who were eliminated should really reflect on themselves. With such personal strength, entering the Zhetian universe is really just an experience treasure or a tonic. In terms of personal strength, the eliminated geniuses probably can't even beat the true disciples of some small sects, let alone the sons and daughters of the saints of the big holy places. Ask for flowers, eat. However, if they can use the divine domain, the sons and daughters of the saints of the big holy places may not be able to beat them. The imbalance in subjects is a bit serious. Yi Tian shook his head, not realizing that he was seriously biased in one subject. Because the examination room was set up with time rules, the first round of selection ended in one morning. The second round of selection, plane hunting. The passing line is to successfully hunt a plane. The more planes you hunt, the higher the value and the higher the points. But only the top 1,000 will be selected. The planes were arranged in advance, but the void beasts around were not dealt with. This test is about the survival ability, strategy, wisdom, luck, etc. of the genius in a dangerous but treasured environment. It is obviously a pretest for the geniuses to participate in the cave treasure hunt after entering Zhetian. This is always inevitable in the fantasy world. Only 1,000 people were left in the second round. It is estimated that no more than 100 geniuses will enter the Zhetian universe in the end. Yi Tian dragged his chin and thought about it. 100 people, not too many, not too few. But strictly speaking, because there are so many sons and grandsons of the gods and emperors in the universe of gods, there are many geniuses with the appearance of emperors, far more than 100 people. This number should be a test. But on second thought, it doesn't matter whether the number is large or not. Just one person is enough. In the Zhetian universe, you must have this kind of invincible belief. Yi Tian, Examination Room 95. At this moment, Yi Tian's name was called out. 100,000 people were arranged in 100 examination rooms, with 1,000 people in each examination room. But when he walked into the examination room, he paused when he heard a name. Linlu, Examination Room 95. Linlu? What a coincidence. Yi Tian smiled slightly, very sunny, but the examiner at the door felt a little cold, the kind of cold that could kill people. It's time for revenge. Chapter 80, Part 1. Entrance to the Void Battlefield, the Royal Immortal Boat. Your Highness, Lin Lu and the others have been arranged clearly. The maid under her command reported. The eldest princess nodded lightly, her eyes were indifferent. Aside, Mu Qinger complained in her heart. Aunt is really a devil who protects her calf and husband. Lin Lu and his friends will definitely not make it through the second round. In addition to Lin Lu, there are also Lin Li's good friends, Zhao Xiaorui's brother Zhao Tianrui, and the geniuses of the families who once wanted to force Yi Tian to be a slave in the examination room number 95. These people are destined to be on the opposite side of Yi Tian, so just get rid of them all at once and for all. Qinger, follow me into the secret realm to wait for Yi Tian. The eldest princess said lightly after a moment of silence. Yes. Mu Qinger said excitedly. Finally, I can see the princess in the secret realm, the girl of destiny. Examination room number 95 of the void battlefield. Yi Tian strolled in the void space full of laws. In this battlefield that could wipe out the life of gods, he still had no fear or tension. Instead, he walked on flat ground, very casually. Is this Yi Tian? He is indeed a person who controls the laws of space. He really has a great advantage in controlling the laws of time and space in the void battlefield. The hundreds of one-star gods, such as Lin Lu behind him, wrapped themselves with divine power to fly normally in the void battlefield. Compared with Yi Tian's calmness, they looked a little embarrassed. So what if he controls the laws of space? He is only a demigod after all. When he starts plane hunting, these personal abilities will not be able to be used. At that time, we will destroy his race in the divine domain and rob all his treasures. Everything he has will belong to us. Lin Lu looked at Yi Tian's back. His eyes were red with jealousy. If it weren't for Yi Tian, he would be the first genius in Yangqing. Everything was because Yi Tian was too outstanding, which led to his scholarship being deducted. It was all Yi Tian's fault. Yes, Yi Tian seems to have 10 billion divine crystals from the people in the star realm. 10 billion divine crystals, even if divided into 100 parts, are enough for us to cultivate to the peak of the middle-level god, and even breaking through to the true god is not impossible. Yi Tian is too arrogant, and he is arbitrary. If he asks to form a team, the top 100 gods in this examination room are willing to listen to him. The gods around Lin Lu are all his acquaintances or interest communities, and some have no grudges against Yi Tian, but are attracted by the divine crystals. Money moves people's hearts, 10 billion divine crystals. This group of people are drooling with envy. The divine crystal is not a big deal. The key is not to let Yi Tian live, otherwise our family will be finished. Unlike Lin Lu and other civilian geniuses, the leading geniuses, especially Zhao Xiaorui's brother Zhao Tianrui, said solemnly, Zhao Tianrui's strength is the strongest here, and his family background is also good. Both his parents are middle-level gods, and he saved a true god in his early years. That true god is now a quasi-god king, so he has a lot of say among the people here. Yes, for our family. Now Yi Tian has the protection of the guards and the favor of the royal family. This is our only chance to kill him. If you don't succeed, you will die. The geniuses of the other big families, their parents are also the peak middle-level gods of Yangqing, and they all have true gods as backers, and even one or two have quasi-god kings as backers. As for the background of the god king, there is no such thing, because the god king realm can open up a kingdom in the star world, and there is no shortage of genius slaves. Those families can get along well with the god king, and they don't need or disdain such things. Okay, everyone has the same interests. Today, our plan to kill this guy will definitely succeed, but everyone listen to me first. Lin Lu said at this time, I know Yi Tian's character very well. On the surface, he is unrestrained, frivolous and arrogant, confident and invincible, and only believes in strength without wisdom, but in fact, it is not the case. Yi Tian has been cautious all his life, does not trust others easily, and is as steady as an old dog. He is not the kind of genius who pretends to be brainless. It took me several years to gain his trust, and in the end, I spent a lot of effort to deceive him, and I succeeded with a very accurate timing. Then what? Zhao Tianrui frowned. Lin Lu must have something to say for praising Yi Tian like this. Then, according to my analysis of him, the plane he chose must be one that he can solve quickly and secretly, Lin Lu said, taking out the plane distribution map of the examination room and pointing to several planes that meet Yi Tian's goals, which happen to be in the same starry sky. You want us to lurk in those planes in advance, and suddenly attack when he is attacking the plane, catching him off guard. Zhao Tianrui understood it all at once. Good idea, let's do it this way. He can never think of it. We will hide in the plane he wants to attack. But we need a strategy to enter that plane. There is no other way. We can only use that method. The plane protection contract, but if the plane is lost, we will be dead. If we win, we can also get the gift of the plane. We must win. If Yi Tian survives, do you think he will let us go? Let's do it. After discussing, the geniuses decided to ambush Yi Tian with a secret method. To use that secret method, you need to sign a contract with the plane, a life and death contract, so that you can enter the plane without damage and temporarily bind to the will of the plane, and then use their divine race to help the plane resist foreign enemies. It is a method used by the gods to fight against the old gods. In fact, the old gods often use this method to trick them. Now, they are planning to use this method on their own people. This is a method that the royal family prohibits from using against gods in the same camp. Now they are also considered 2.4, and they will do everything they can. Even if Yi Tian killed them, he was standing on the highest moral ground, and no one dared to say he was wrong. Interesting, a bunch of idiots still want to ambush me? Lin Lu and others had never expected that after Yi Tian disappeared from their sight, he secretly summoned a shadow clone to escape into the void, followed Lin Lu, and knew everything about Lin Lu and his plans. The shadow clone formed a seal and summoned another clone. After informing the clone of the information, the clone dissipated and returned to the mind of the original body with the information memory. Lin Lu really knows me very well. I am as steady as an old dog when doing things. Yi Tian smiled coldly. If you want to ambush me in those planes, then I will give you a huge surprise and let you see the power of the reincarnation.
Thanks for watching. You can find the next videos in the playlist linked in the info card or directly on my channel. If you have any feedback, I'd love to hear it. Feel free to drop a comment.